So, hello everybody. Donc, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Bienvenue dans Il y a de la joie dans tes oreilles, le podcast qui va vous faire vibrer et qui est spécifique et dédié à la spiritualité. Alors, aujourd'hui, c'est un podcast un petit peu particulier puisque j'ai la grande joie d'inviter et d'avoir comme invité Steven Kessler. Donc, cette interview va être faite en anglais et vous aurez la traduction en audio et en sous-titres sur YouTube. Donc, merci à chacun pour votre compréhension, à la fois pour mon accent anglais et français très mauvais. Merci à tous et merci à Steven Kessler de nous rejoindre. Hello, Steven. Thanks for accepting my invitation and welcome on my podcast. Il y a de la joie dans tes oreilles.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So today we share together about your past, about your life and your the main event in your life, and we finish the meeting together about your book, whose name is The Five Personality Patterns, qui in French c'est les cinq personnalités, les cinq patterns des personnalités. So,
Schéma de personnalité.
Voilà, les cinq personnalités. You have a good French accent and you speak very well.
My accent is much better than my grammar or my words.
Oh, it's okay. I think that it's really interesting because a lot of American people finally speak French, and it's really fun to know that. So thanks a lot, and for your accepting this invitation. And what about your spiritual path? What the principal event in your life about your spiritual path?
Yeah, my spiritual path has been rather incremental. I have not had peak experiences. You know, some people will have some kind of amazing opening when they're 8 years old or 12 or 15 or something like that. That did not happen to me. It was much sort of smaller and simpler and incremental. I mean, I remember sitting in church with my mother when I was, I don't know, in elementary school, and the preacher was telling us all how bad we were, and I was thinking, this can't be right. This doesn't sound right. And then when I was in college, so I was about 20, I learned transcendental meditation and tried to do that. And it didn't work very well for me. And I later realized that I had been doing it. In English, you would call it a sort of calisthenic attitude. I was doing it really hard. I was putting a lot of effort into it because I did not realize that effort is not a good thing for meditation. That meditation requires relaxing. But I was not very good at relaxing when I was 20 years old. So my 20s passed. In my 30s, well, in my late 20s, I got a master's degree in transpersonal psychology.
Okay.
But that didn't involve very much in terms of spiritual teaching. I did have a wonderful psychotherapist who was quite psychically and energetically attuned, but I didn't even know it at the time. And then in my 30s, I learned about personality patterns, and I studied the Enneagram for a long time.
Okay.
And when I was about 40 years old, I went to Africa to visit an African shaman, you know, in the hopes that something wonderful and big would happen for me, and it did not. And then after I came back from that, I joined a meditation school here in the United States called the Ridwan School, or the Diamond Heart School.
Oh, yeah, Diamond. Yeah.
I was in that for 16 years, and that was the best meditation teaching, psycho-spiritual teaching that I have ever seen anywhere.
Just about the shaman in Africa. I'm curious about your experience. How do you meet as this shaman, and what's happened in this experience for you?
Well, I was invited by an African man, French-speaking African man named Malidoma Somé,
Mm-hmm.
who had left his home country of Burkina Faso. Apparently, he had a scholarship or something to go to France to study. In Burkina, French is the language of the white people.
Yeah.
So he was quite fluent in French, and he he had some amazing spiritual experiences when he had returned to Burkina Faso, and then he had shown up here in the United States at some of the men's conferences and had talked about those. And I had said I was interested, and he said, "Well, come with me, and I'll introduce you to that shaman." And the shaman turned out to be not a very ethical person, and not necessarily very capable. He seemed much more interested in making money out of this than in helping anybody grow.
Okay.
So that was not that much fun.
Okay.
I spent 6 weeks in Burkina Faso trying to speak French. I had a year or 2 years of French in elementary school, so I didn't know very much. But that was most of my experience in French.
Okay. And after that, you said that you have you practice a lot in the Heart Meditation Center.
Yes,
Mm.
the Diamond Heart Meditation School was very helpful for me.
Okay.
It taught me, I was already familiar with the idea from psychology that each person has an inner critic. But the Diamond Heart Meditation School teaches you how to not only recognize your inner critic, but actually push back against that voice and that force in your psyche, how to defend yourself against it, and actually how to change your relationship with it so that you grow bigger and it grows smaller.
Mm.
That has been tremendously important for me.
Mm. And the name is the Diamond Heart, which means that you open the heart all the time. What about this meditation about yeah fields,
It's not
energy fields?
it's not actually a heart-centered meditation.
Okay.
Despite the name of the school being Diamond Heart, it does not emphasize the heart center.
Okay.
They start people with the belly center, and I think they do that because it seems important for everyone to develop their belly center before they begin opening their heart center, because you need the strength of the belly center to protect the heart center after it begins to open.
Yeah, sure. And for you, what's happened in your conscience about this experience in this school of meditation?
It was a gradual process of becoming more and more able to stabilize my attention, to intentionally put it one place and keep it there. Um, in my experience, learning to stabilize your attention is the most important skill any person can learn in their entire life. Because everything else that you learn and everything else you do depends on your ability to control your own attention.
Mm.
And for most people in ordinary life, our attention is very scattered. It goes there and here and there and over there and everywhere. If there's a loud sound, if there's a bright light, if there's a moving object, anything will attract our attention. We're like, if you own a dog and you are trying to train the dog, train the dog to sit, to come. If you're outside and the dog sees a squirrel, the dog goes, squirrel. And it doesn't hear you anymore. You know, it's like, boom. And we humans are like that.
Yeah.
And that is a kind of prison that we live in which our attention can be caught and manipulated by any sort of outside force.
Mm.
Advertisers know this. Television and movie editors know this. Um, so learning to stabilize my attention has probably been the most significant thing that I learned from the
Mm.
Diamond Heart School.
Mm. And how do you make the link between this meditation school and your professional life as a psychotherapist?
It's not exactly a link. It's more something happening in parallel.
Okay.
Um, so many different things. I have pursued many different things in my life, and they didn't lead, one thing leads to another. It was so many different things that have all contributed. For instance, when I was first in college, um, initially I went to college to study physics because I thought that my mind was more important, and physics is the priesthood of this culture. It's like they tell us what's real. And I wanted to know what was real. And then I realized that I was emotionally bound up tight and pretty wounded from my own childhood, and that it was not going to get better
Mm.
by studying physics. And I transferred to acting school, and I studied acting for 4 years.
Okay.
And I learned to enter the world of a different person and experience the world the way they experience it. That was tremendously helpful. That
Yeah.
made me much less judgmental. And I discovered that every person is doing the best they can.
Mm.
Even if they're a murderer, even if they're abusing someone, they think this is a good choice.
Mm.
Objectively, they may be very wrong, but in their moment, from their point of view, they think this is the best thing for them to do.
Mm.
That was very helpful for me in not being so judgmental anymore.
Yeah. So you dive in, you can say maybe you dive in your emotional part with,
Yes.
yes, with the
And
acting. Yes.
after
Mm.
4 years in acting school and then 4 more years in a repertory company,
Yeah.
my emotional life finally opened up and I
Mm.
could feel my emotions again. I
Mm.
couldn't really feel them before that.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And I think that happens to a lot of people, especially a lot of men who are taught to not feel.
Mm. And you speak as men because you're a man. And for this point, what about your what do you think about the men and the emotion, the emotional part? What do you think right now with all the men? And from my part, for my woman part, I have a painting of a man, not most of them, but a lot of men. It's really hard for them to speak and to be in their emotional part. And
Yes.
for you, what is your feeling about that? About the
Yeah.
men today? Yeah.
I don't know how children are raised in France,
Mm.
but in the United States, boys are taught that they must not cry, that
No.
crying is a sign of weakness.
Mm.
And if they cry, or when they cry, they are often mocked and punished
Oh.
by older boys and by men that they admire and want to please.
Mm.
They're, one of the things that parents sometimes say to their children, especially fathers to their sons, you stop crying or I will give you a reason to cry,
Okay.
meaning I will hit you,
Yeah.
threats of violence
Mm.
if you don't control your emotions. That stunts a person's emotions. And since feeling your emotions and letting them pass through is the way that a person processes their experience, digests their experience. And since we all need to digest our experience moment to moment to moment to moment, when you teach a child, when you teach a boy to not feel his emotions, he becomes unable to digest his own experience. So he gets stuck at that place in life, that point in life. And we here in the United States have had a great deal of difficulty in seeing masculinity as having a strong heart and having a heart that is just as tender, just as sensitive as anyone else's heart. I did run men's groups for 16 years. That was part of my work as a psychotherapist. And in that process, I learned that men's hearts are just as valuable and important as anyone's hearts.
Yeah.
But we've been trained to ignore our hearts, which is bad for us in our life. It's bad for relationships with anybody, especially love relationships. I think it's a real mistake.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure, but I think that it's the same in Europe, about old patterns and the whole civilization and the patriarchal civilization about the men are not allowed to cry. It's not possible. But
Yes.
now I think that it's moving a little bit, step by step, not too much.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If I look back at civilization for 10,000 years and how it has progressed, I think that the belly center is the first to develop. And then we gradually added the head center to the belly center. That would be the Renaissance in Europe. The belly center was just about force, about violence and domination. I'm king, I'm a soldier, I'll kill you if you don't do what I say.
Yeah.
And then adding the head center, we began to add reason and logic and facts and, laws. And I think the third center, the heart center, will be the next step in our collective evolution as human beings.
Yeah.
It may take hundreds of years.
I hope only hundreds, not thousands.
But, I want to help that in whatever way I can.
And you said about the men, and what about your feeling about the woman and the open heart? Do you think that the women are more open about your heart? It's easier for the woman, or it's not the same feeling?
The influence of hormones is important. The influence of estrogen on a human body is very different than the influence of testosterone. So, even in the womb, a boy's body is getting much more testosterone, a girl's body is getting much more estrogen. And those change the way the brain develops, the way emotions flow through the body, huge numbers of differences. And then, of course, we have upbringing. I've lost the thread. I don't recall where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
No, we just my question is about your feeling about the woman and about the heart opened.
Yes, that for women, the heart is more easily accessible and naturally stronger.
Okay.
And the strength that in a woman's body, the place where the energy comes out of the body is naturally the heart center.
Okay.
So expressing emotions is very natural. The place where energy goes into the body for a woman is the belly center, the pelvis. For a man, it's the opposite. For a man, energy comes out of the body through the pelvis and into the body through the heart center. So if you have a man and a woman making love, or even just talking to each other, there's a circulation in a circle.
Yeah.
From the woman's heart to the man's heart, down to the man's pelvis, across to her pelvis, up to her heart, back around.
So the point, the departure is the heart of the woman.
Yes, and so her heart is naturally stronger. And so women feel much more comfortable in feeling emotions and expressing them into the world. By contrast, men feel more comfortable taking action. Action comes out through the belly center, the pelvis, right? And just as we teach men that they are not allowed to rape women, they are not allowed to penetrate the woman's pelvis without her permission, and even invitation. We also need to teach women that they, even though they're very curious about the man's heart, they don't have the right to just penetrate his heart.
Okay.
The same way that, for the woman to penetrate the man's heart without his permission, without noticing his tenderness there, is frightening to him. The same way that a man trying to rape a woman is frightening to her.
Yeah.
Our culture doesn't yet understand the part about hearts. So we need to teach women and men about that, and help women learn to ask permission of the man before they send their emotional energy toward his heart. Just as we have taught men to ask permission of the woman before he sends his sexual energy into her pelvis. Right?
Yes, it's very interesting because I can feel that some women, even me, sometimes I think so, we can be a little bit intrusive. Just, yes, we jump in the field and finally, without authorization, it's not respectful for the man and for the person in front of the woman. So really interesting to put this point about the woman and the man, because the man, it's obvious finally to not the permission. In France and in Europe, we spoke a lot about the Me Too movement, and really it's a long work, but we speak a lot about that. But about the woman, sometimes we can forget that we have to ask before also going in the fields, and because of a heart open easier, it's not so. Yes, so thanks for that. It's really interesting to give this point. Yes, thank you for that. And
we all think that everyone else is just the way we are.
Yeah.
Because we've only experienced life one way, that's our way. So we think if we're wearing a female body, we think everyone, feels strong energy coming up through their heart and going out, and like, this is the way I communicate with people. And when women get together with other women, they do this, and everyone's happy about it. And naturally, they don't realize that men's hearts are less experienced, less practiced in this, and need to be treated carefully.
Yeah. And I think that you're right when you said that we because I'm a woman, but we have to ask before if it's possible or it's allowed or not. It's really interesting to say ask before if the person in front of you is okay or not okay about this art, because it's a really it's a part a big part of sensitivity, and
it is.
Yes, and very emotional for the men or other people.
It's very confusing for a man who has been raised to believe that he should not feel his feelings, and that if he expresses his feelings, he's not masculine. And for his woman, he wants to be masculine. So he doesn't know what to do about this. And that's why it's so valuable for men to do this work in the company of other men
Mm.
so that they can learn from other men how their hearts work.
Mm.
And realize that, you know, we're all men in this group, and that your masculinity is not in danger,
Mm.
and that crying actually helps. That you can feel what you need to feel, you can express it. You know how we all have the expression of, I needed to have a good cry?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
That when your body cries, you're digesting your experience, and then afterwards you understand something, or something has relaxed.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
If you've never been allowed to do that as a boy, you
Mm.
don't know that experience.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Just
Mm.
like women during the women's movement in the 1970s and
Yeah,
early 1980s, women had to learn how to be angry.
yeah.
Comes from the belly center. Their heart centers were strong. They had to learn how to strengthen their belly center
Mm.
and, you know, stand up and say, no,
Mm.
not okay with me.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. And when I say no, it's no.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
not teasing you. This no is a real no.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
will tell you when it's yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And about the man, it's to say finally how to learn to say yes also or no about
Exactly.
if they are okay or not
I
okay.
learned to say yes.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting to feel the movement between the two polarities between the masculine and the feminine, and about the yes, and we continue about you about your life. We stop at the Diamond Heart School.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So after being in the Diamond Heart School
Mm.
for, I think, 16 years, um, maybe 20, I I had also been working, I'd been learning energy work
Okay.
slowly, gradually, and joined a class to learn more about working with energy. And I gradually realized that working with energy was more productive for me and was more helpful to me than the meditation
Okay.
practice. So I quit the Diamond Heart School, and I've been doing energy psychology work for the last 20 years. And
Okay.
that's really where I learned about the personality patterns, and that's how I came to write the book about those.
Okay. And just before speaking together about your book and about the process of writing, I just give give us some words about your energy practice and about what do you learn, even if it's step by step.
Hmm. So, um, so the simple idea is that just as we have a physical body,
Mm.
we also have an energy body, which is more fundamental, and that the energy body actually creates the physical body. And if there is sickness, disease in the physical body, there is the cause of it is probably in the energy body, and it can be fixed there. And if you fix the cause in the energy body, the physical body will heal more rapidly. So this tends to be true for diseases. It's not as true for a physical injury. You know, if if you make a mistake with a knife and you cut your hand,
Yeah.
um, that probably didn't start in your energy body. But if the energy is moving through your energy body freely, the cut in your physical hand will heal more rapidly.
Mm.
The energy body is well understood in China through work with the meridians and acupuncture.
Mm.
And the idea is simply that um, there are places where the energy flows through your body, and that the flow should be free and even through all parts of your body and not stuck anywhere.
Yeah. And what about your your sensation, your feelings when you discover this energy fields in your body? What's happened in your mind and in your conscious about this discovering?
I wouldn't say I actually discovered it. I would say that I was taught about this gradually over the years from various places. I mean, I had heard about Chinese acupuncture, and
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine was an acupuncturist, and I um, had healing sessions from him and from other acupuncturists over the years. I never understood very much about what was happening, but
Mm.
the learning about it was quite gradual.
Okay.
So, it started as a mental learning and then gradually moved into beginning to experience it more fully.
Mm.
I would not say that I am exceptionally talented in in tracking energy or on
Mhm.
the psychic channels. I don't have special abilities or talents in that way.
Okay, just you open. Just you
And
open the meridians and you are more, maybe more sensitive, or you are, yes, you have more feelings maybe about that, no?
well, I would love to be more sensitive
Mm.
energetically and psychically. On the other hand, one of the reasons that I wrote the book on the
Yeah,
personality patterns was that up to that time, although these patterns had been understood in psychology for 100 years,
yeah.
um, there was very little that was easy to understand for the average person. It was either sort of hidden away in Freudian psychoanalysis or Neo-Reichian psychoanalysis, or the people who did energy healing, hands-on healing, like Barbara Brennan's books. She has she says something about these character structures, and she has drawings of how the energy flows because she can see that.
Yeah.
I can't see that. So I thought, well, you have to either be a psychoanalyst or you have to be an energy healer to
Mm.
understand this. I want to bring this out to the general public, sort of who I am.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I tried to put it in much more plain language.
Yes, and it's really, and I can say it because I'm not fluent, and it's easier to read it even in English.
Good,
So I
good.
invite all the people to read it in English and in French if they want, but in English it's really
Yes.
easier to understand all the meanings, even if it needs a little time to make the point and to gather the healing part and the psychological part. So about this book, and I there's the 5 personality patterns again. What is your process of writing to finally gather the 2 parts?
Well, I had been studying this material in energy class
Mhm.
for many years, and I had been taking notes on it from, what my teacher said. So I had those written down. And um, when I started looking for other sources of material on this, I read Alexander Lowen and Pirakos and Barbara Brennan
Mhm. Mhm.
and Stephen Johnson's books, but there are only a handful, half a dozen books
Mm.
about it. And so basically, I used my skills
Yeah.
from having grown up pretty conditioned into the rigid pattern to make order out of the chaos and put everything in its place.
You are rigid.
I that is probably my main pattern. Yes.
Okay. And
Rigid pattern.
if it's okay for you, you can answer. If you're not, tell me. What how you can yeah, give a definition of your rigid pattern, your main part. How do you feel in your body
Oh,
this rigid part?
yeah, the easiest way to understand all 5 of the patterns
Mm.
is that each one starts from a safety strategy, a way that the child tries to feel safer when they feel distressed, when they feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And let me take them in developmental order. So the earliest one would be the leaving pattern. And the way the child tries to feel safer is to simply leave their body, to move their attention out of their body, which even a an infant can do, or a fetus in the womb. You know, as it's growing in the womb, the consciousness will sometimes be in the body and sometimes go back to the field of divinity where it came from,
Mm.
and will go back and forth. But if it's if every time it feels unhappy or unsafe, it goes back, it doesn't really learn to attach to the physical body or the physical plane. But the safety strategy is to leave the body, or at least when you're older, when you're a child and you can physically move, to leave the room,
Mm.
to go away from what's distressing you. And then the second pattern developmentally is the emerging pattern, in which the person does the opposite thing. Instead of trying to get away from what's distressing them, the person who's upsetting them, they move towards a person, maybe that same person, for comfort. It's the way a child does it. When a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old is unhappy, they come to you and they say, "Pick me up, make it better,"
Yeah.
right?
Mm. Mm.
And they need you to do that. You can soothe them, you can hold them and
Mm.
calm their body. They can't do that for themselves. So a person who's caught in the merging pattern is still using that safety strategy. I need you to fix it for me.
Mm.
Third one is the enduring pattern. Pull the energy in, send it down into the ground below you, and hide.
Mm. Okay.
This is a useful strategy if big bad things are happening in the world, in the life, and you can't fight against it. You can't win. You're not big enough. You're not strong enough. They'll just um, defeat you every time. So you learn to hide.
Mm.
And that becomes the enduring pattern.
Mm.
The energy goes down and it stays down and it gets stuck there.
Mm.
The fourth pattern is the opposite. You learn to bring energy up in your body to try to get as big and strong as possible, to look intimidating, to dominate the other people in order to force them to do what you want them to do. You try to feel safer by being bigger and stronger.
Mm.
You may notice the United States tends to do this pattern. We have the biggest military in the world and we send it everywhere.
Yeah.
So the idea here is, I don't feel safe. You're making me feel bad. I'm going to control you. I'm going to make you do what I want you to do. Okay?
Mm.
So we have leaving, going towards, going down, going up and out.
Mm.
And the fifth one, the rigid pattern, is to constrict the body, to tighten the muscles in the body all the way down, to try to constrict the flow of life energy through the body so that you don't feel as much.
Mm.
And so you can move your attention from what you feel on the inside to how you're performing on the outside. So you can behave better, perform better.
Mm.
Um, you learn to, stand up straight, comb your hair, brush your teeth, be a good boy, be a good girl, say
Yeah.
please and thank you, follow the rules.
Yeah.
Your attention goes to the rules.
Mm.
Your attention also goes to um, doing things in the proper form and in the proper order and keeping everything organized. So
Mm.
with each of these patterns, you develop a certain set of skills,
Mm.
which become the gifts of that pattern. And for the rigid pattern, one of the gifts is putting things in order.
Mm.
So when I came to beginning to write this book about the patterns, I made an outline of the book and I began putting everything that needed to be in the book in the right place. And of course, if you do it on a computer, it's easy to move things around to where they, you realize, oh, it shouldn't be here. It should be up there.
Mm. And
So
about you, so you feel that you are a little bit rigid, yes?
I wouldn't say it that way. I would
Okay.
say that when I'm in distress, I
Okay.
tend to go into the rigid pattern.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
see, this is not a fundamental characteristic of the person. It's a defense strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a way to protect yourself, but it's deeply conditioned into the body. So it
Mm.
takes a lot of healing to clear out the old trauma
Yeah.
that tends to fuel it.
Yeah. And now, how do you feel in your body? Better, less rigid, less, and in the strategy defense, I understood. Just you can feel better or with more, a flow in your body or something like that.
I've been doing different kinds of healing work
Okay.
probably 40 years.
Okay. Wow.
So I've cleared out of my body most of the old trauma.
Mhm.
So um, there isn't, I think of the trauma as like fuel. And when you get triggered, it's like something lights the fire. And if there's a lot of fuel, there's a big fire.
Mm.
And then you feel compelled to behave in a certain way. If there's only a little bit of fuel left, it's not a big fire, it's a small fire. It's like, okay, not a problem.
Okay. So it's good. Okay. And about your again your process of writing, so
Mhm.
how, what do you want exactly to for the readers? You want to offer this your yeah, what do you learned during the last year for the all the people? What's your goals about writing this book?
As I understand it, or in my opinion, understanding people this way is very helpful in shifting from fear and anger to compassion and kindness,
Mm.
and and finding a way to respond that actually helps you and helps the other person, because you learn to understand what's actually driving the other person, even though they don't understand it themselves. And then you can speak to them in a way that they will understand what you're trying to say. And I'm actually working on a second book now about how to relate to other people, how to have better relationships
Oh, cool.
using this material. But
Okay.
my hope is that eventually this way of understanding people will be taught in high schools
Mhm.
or even elementary schools all around the world, and we will not fight with each other nearly as much.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
will learn to understand each other and be kind to each other.
Yeah, even if we need to have a little bit fire inside, and sometimes good to
Yes,
be not with. Sometimes, are you okay to say that sometimes it's good to have some hunger? Yes,
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 that
okay,
motivates you to do something.
yeah, yeah.
And to have, I mean, there's a difference between the fire inside that comes from um, a resolution or a determination to accomplish a goal versus a fire that comes from anger or hatred,
Mm.
which just wants to destroy something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm, mm. So it's a manner to give some support to the people or skills to learn how to transform and transmute
Yes,
the
yes.
emotional part with sometime a kind of enemy. Yes.
And to learn, there's a whole set of energy skills that a person needs to learn
Mm.
in order to become an emotionally mature adult,
Yeah, yeah.
such as feeling your own core,
Mm.
connecting down into the ground, connecting up into the field of divinity, holding an edge around yourself. differentiating yourself from other people. These are basic energy skills, and everyone needs to learn these.
Yes, so it's how to become an adult.
It is how to
Yeah,
become an adult and a
yeah.
healthy adult.
Yes, with compassion and wisdom. Yes.
Rather than a child in an adult's body,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a child with an adult's power
Mm,
and access to adult weaponry.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of people in the United States and a lot of people around the world who are reacting as children, but they have guns and they hurt people.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they're a whole government and they have access to armies and navies and airplanes and bombs. And, they decide, well, I think we should go kill all those people. That's so helpful, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you want to, because we are going to the end of this audio and this podcast, what are your last words for the people, advice or something like that about this, and how maybe to use this book, because you have we can use it by ourselves, or maybe we need someone else to be supportive. What
Yes,
do you? Yeah.
yes. I think it's certainly helpful if you're doing psychotherapy
Mm-hmm.
or if you are working with a coach. I think it's very useful to be working with a therapist or a coach who understands this map of personality, this
Yeah.
way of understanding people.
Mm.
And there is actually a coach in France who helped me with the translation, a woman named Veronique Navette.
Okay.
And I can give you contact information for her so you can post that. So, she understands this material, and I would encourage other coaches and psychotherapists in France to learn about this because you'll find it tremendously helpful in
Yeah.
working with your clients.
Mm. Mm. And last question: when is your second book? Sorry. Uh, when do you schedule to publish it?
Well, I'm publishing it myself, so nothing is certain, but I'm hoping that I can publish it before the end of the summer or by
Okay.
the end of the summer.
Okay. So let us know, please.
I
Okay.
will definitely let you know. I will
Okay, thank you very
definitely let
much.
you
Thanks a lot, Steven Kessler, for this meeting and this sharing. I gave all your information on the podcast and on my channel YouTube. So thanks a lot, and I wish you the best and see you soon. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad that you're interested in this, and I'm excited that as a French speaker, you're beginning to introduce this more into the French-speaking world.
Yeah,
So I'm
and
grateful.
yeah, yeah, and because your book is also in French, French
There you go.
translation. Yes. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.